You're listening to Music Tectonics.
Welcome back to Music Tectonics, where we go beneath the surface to see how technology and innovation are changing the music industry. I'm your host, Dimitri Vitsa, founder and CEO of music and tech PR firm Rock Paper Scissors, online at rockpaperscissors.biz. Hey, on the next few episodes, we are presenting Music Tectonics at Midem in Cannes, in France, where it's a beautiful sunny 71 degrees Fahrenheit with a lovely ocean breeze. We're in the Palais where they hold the conference, just next to the water. You can see the boats in the water. It's a beautiful day here. Midem is the International B2B Music Trade Conference, which is in its 52nd year. Man, we'll be talking to several of the startups competing in this year's 12th edition Midemlab. Since Midemlab started in 2008, 237 music startups from 31 countries have taken part in the competition. Past participants of Midemlab, and listen up because this is what's relevant, they've included SoundCloud, the Echo Nest, later acquired by Spotify, Next Big Sound, later acquired by Pandora. Even Kickstarter was a part of it. Even Kickstarter. This year, Midemlab has 20 startups competing in 5 categories: music creation and education, music discovery and distribution, marketing and data analytics. The 4th category is experiential technologies. I love the way Midem has addressed such a diverse set of categories. They align well with the types of topics we talk about here on Music Tectonics. We talk about how now music is competing with everything, but we also talk about how music is now in the hands of the masses. So music creation and education, a great one. I always think about you don't even need music teachers anymore, because you can go to YouTube and learn everything you want, and then you go and you put it out on TikTok, and before you know it, you're a superstar. Not that it's that easy, not necessarily, but and then marketing and data analytics, so important in the streaming era to figure out where you're getting traction and so forth. Of course, experiential technologies, because since we're competing with everything, the more we can make music engaging and feel like more than just a passive listener, the more, you create opportunities for people to engage with music. So I'm really excited to be here at Midem, and hope you enjoy these interviews we've got for Music Tectonics at Midem. I'm here with Tim Exile from Finalists, who is a participant in the 2019 Midemlab competition. How you doing, Tim?
Very well, Dimitri. How are you?
I'm doing great. So great to have you on the podcast. We're here in Cannes at Midem in the Palais. Yeah. It's just literally just opened up, but you can already see a lot of meetings are starting to happen, and you guys can hear that in podcast land. So tell us what Endless does.
Well, so Endless, what we're really trying to do is kind of bring that like short form collaborative recreational revolution to music that, like TikTok and Snapchat have done to video, and Instagram did to images, Twitter did to the written word. This whole where it's about, it's music making as a conversation. It's about creation and consumption, and it's about it's about relationship building.
Cool. What does it look like when you're actually using it?
So currently, our app is it's a live multiplayer music making app that's more aimed at kind of existing creators who can just kind of get together in little jamming groups distributed around the world, and they can make riffs with each other. So I can make a riff. As soon as I've made that riff, it's on your phone. You can add another layer to it, or you can remix it. When you've done that, that's sent straight back to me. That's sent straight to everyone else in the chat. So it's kind of like a music-making chat room. It's like super fast-moving and really interactive and collaborative. That's what it is at the moment. The next thing we're building is, a feed-based experience where people can come in. Maybe less experienced people can come in, see all the amazing riffs that these kind of really amazing jammers are doing, and start by just consuming in a sort of feed-based style, almost like TikTok,
nice.
Instagram style.
So a little bit of a marketplace will kind of emerge from that.
Exactly.
That's cool. So you have the collaborative component,
Yeah.
Creation and collaborative component, and then building into a marketplace, meeting people, starting to interact in a social composition kind of way.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think the headline is we're a relationship platform. That's what we want to be. We're a relationship platform where music is the language, and people make awesome short form content with a really fun creative tool.
So just to be clear, they're actually playing. They're playing music on the app itself. It's not a recording device. It's not used for recording. It's actual like drum beats, sounds, and vocal as well. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So you can record stuff in, and this is what our kind of super users do straight away. They'll get into it using the inbuilt sounds that are really easy to use and kind of lay down some beats, lay down some bass lines, recording some vocals. But then they're just like, hey, I want to hook up my whole studio. So they then go and like sync up their studio, and they're piping in like Moog synths and all this really high-end stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
I mean, it's super simple. It's all there in the app. You can create, share, consume in one single app. Now that's what Snapchat did to video. That's what TikTok did. That's what Instagram did. Totally changed the landscape for those media formats. And
that's awesome. Yeah, it sounds like so much fun. The promo video you guys have is awesome.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
thanks.
like you just want to like start playing with it. So, are you in the Midemlab category for music creation and education or experiential technology?
Creation education.
Okay, cool,
Yeah.
Awesome. Do you like that category? Are you happy with that category?
It's funny because, I mean, like, what we're trying to do is, does break out of quite a few categories because, one of the big problems that I wanted to solve as an artist, as a recording artist for 10 years or so, releasing albums, and I was in the music industry proper. But the thing that frustrated me, that there was this barrier between creation and consumption. And actually, what these platforms in other media formats have done, especially short form videos, there isn't really that much of a distinction between consumption and creation. It's just this very fast moving cycle. So it's conversational. So it's really interesting that you've got these different categories for music where they don't really fit anymore.
Right, like so in a way. So I actually was I was saying I kind of like the categories because they hit so much. But you're saying you actually kind of, once somebody goes full cycle with Endless, it actually feels like they're also doing marketing and distribution and other and experiential technology. For you, you're hitting all the categories. Really.
Basically, yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you have a background in music. Where'd you get the idea for this app? I mean, was there a specific moment, or was it more like a evolutionary situation where you're like, man, over time, I really wish I had something like this?
Yeah, I mean, the seeds were planted very early. So I started my music world kind of opened up when I was a 5-year-old kid, started playing the violin, got into that, then fell in love with electronic music when I was 12. I was just like, hey, this sound world is amazing. My life is going to be about this.
Do you remember like what you were listening to at age 12?
Yeah.
What was it?
It was I don't know. Do you remember Orbital, the band, the group Orbital?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they got their name from this M25 motorway that goes around London, where all these kind of illegal raves were popping up. And so like on a Saturday night, everyone would drive round the M25.
Nice.
And they'd have all these bootleg tapes. They'd record the DJ sets. And, I kind of picked up on some of those.
At age 12, like literally, where did you find this? Is your parents listening to this stuff? Or, I mean,
no, my parents listened to like Bach and Handel and stuff like that. That was the most modern it got, my parents. No, this was it. A friend of mine's older brother.
I figured.
Classic.
Older brother, that's
older
the other
brothers.
one.
Yeah.
My older brother was listening to Kraftwerk back when I was tiny. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Thank God for older brothers.
When they weren't beating you up, they had great music taste.
Yeah.
So how long have you been working on the app?
So the team's been building for 3 years because it's a very R&D heavy project. Just to get it to this point, there's a huge amount of technical problems we've had to solve, UX problems we've had to solve. And that's been fun. I funded it. From the plugin company that I had, I funded it, and we had a government grant. We've got some angel investors, some really cool angel investors. So that's funded it so far.
Gotcha. And I actually cut you off on your story. You were saying you got into that music, and we were getting to how you came up with the idea as well. Yeah, sorry, I distracted you.
So yeah, started playing the violin. Fell in love with electronic music and was just like, okay, this is my sound world. And when I heard that music, when I heard the DJs playing, it sounded to me like they were playing it live. I was young, I wasn't 12, I was naive, I didn't know what turntables were. And I just assumed that they were like improvising this music. It sounded like it should be improvised. But of course it wasn't. And then, I got into producing, I got into DJing, but I lost that kind of embodied feeling of playing the violin. I was just like, okay, my mission is to bring this back to electronic music. So... I started making albums in the studio, but it just wasn't right for me. So I taught myself to code, built myself an instrument for improvising electronic music. I spent like 5 years or so as a kind of improvising artist, trying to kind of make a career out of improv, which is hard in the music industry because the music industry is essentially about repertoire. And then at some point there was a sort of lightning bolt moment where I realized that the greatest value that I had was not actually me playing this stuff. It was the technology I'd made. And so then it was just like, right, okay, we're going to do Endless. We're going to make a platform that, brings improv back to music, turns music into a language where it's about doing stuff in real time. It's about responding rather than composing,
Cool. Where's the name come from? Endless.
Ooh.
No, it's got 3 S's at the end.
It's got 3 S's.
Well, that's why I keep saying endless. Is that how you say it, or is that just me?
No, I do. I mean, when we're talking about it with the team, it's just endless. It's become, without an.
That's the abbreviated version.
That's yeah. Actually, some of our super users call it S with 3 S's, like ESSS.
Ah, that's cool.
Which is interesting. Yeah, but So the name.
Why is it called that?
I spent such a long time thinking about the name. We kind of thought about all sorts of cheesy things, like we were going to call it Momentum at some point, and then we were going to call it Freeform. And I don't know, they just didn't quite have the ring to it. And it was late one night. I had a bout of insomnia. And, I was turning over my
The night was taking forever.
And the name was taking forever. And then
no, the night.
Oh, the night.
It was endless.
The night was endless. Oh, I see. Okay, I see what we did there. It just came.
Cool name. Got it. Yeah. What have been the biggest challenges to date with this company?
Well, we've had a huge amount of tech to develop. Much more tech than your usual startup. The usual kind of life cycle for a startup is that you come up with an idea, you prototype it over a couple of weeks, and then you get an MVP, an actual product out in the marketplace in 6 months. It's taken us 3 years, and that's not because we've been slow. It's just because we're attacking a really complex problem that needs a lot of solutions to a lot of problems to actually get even the minimal thing tested out. So that's been challenging.
So you got through the hard part.
So we've got through the hard part. And we managed to keep funding it. I feel that life is probably going to get I say
knock on wood.
Knock on wood. Life is going to get easier, but yeah, I mean it's definitely now we're out in beta. We've got this limited beta. We've got a decent number of users. The vibe's growing, the community's growing. So we're in the fun part now.
So what's the one thing you could get at Midem that would have a great impact on your startup? I'm thinking, is it investment? Is it users? Or is there something else?
Well, we are fundraising at the moment. We're closing an investment round at the end of this month, which is going pretty well. I mean, we're most of the way to our target now, so not particularly concerned about that. We will need to raise some more investment in the next sort of 8 months or so. So that'll be useful. I think potential partnerships is an interesting thing for us at Midem because we've got our revenue streams are going to be the tool, because the tool is awesome. The tool is going to be free, but there'll be a premium tier for if you want the really cool sounds and the really cool effects and you want all the storage and so on, then you pay a subscription. But then we're going to be our users are already generating licensable content already in the first 2 months of our beta. We run a riff of the day on our Instagram channel, and so I think particularly at Midem there's lots of possibilities to find ways of teaming up with existing publishers and labels and stuff like that to license our content to people, or even use all the licensing platforms here to partner with a licensing platform to who can take these riffs and maybe curate them and place them in certain places. So
do you also generate revenue off of those tracks that people make on the platform?
Not yet.
Not
but
yet,
yeah,
right? Is that the plan?
That's the plan. Yeah. So we've got three plans for revenue really. The first thing we're going to do is the tool. You pay for the extra features. That's quite easy to do. The next one will be the next two. One of them is licensing content. The other one is because we're a relationship platform, we can look to something like the Twitch model or the Patreon model or the YouTube model, where people subscribe to users. And I think those are the two really interesting revenue streams for us, because it makes Endless a marketplace, and we want to be a big platform where people come to to hear and create music and build relationships. And the way to make that kind of platform sustainable is to allow people to generate revenue, is for it to be a marketplace.
Yeah, and so that's where they would pay a subscription, and you would get a cut, they would get a cut. The creators would get a cut. Are you seeing specific genres already in your initial beta users that are kind of emerging, or?
We're seeing what we see is people kind of start specific jams. It's actually, this is a fascinating question, because what we're noticing is people are moving away from genre and they're moving towards purpose.
What kind of purpose do you think?
Like, why are you doing
like
this?
Dance or relaxation,
exactly.
or
or kind of context. So we've got a jam. There's some of our top users. So there's an amen, the amen break. There's an amen break jam where everyone just is just doing stuff with amen breaks. But then there's also a jam. There's like an ambient jam. So that's a genre jam. But then there's also a kids jam where people are like, okay, my kids want to play with this, but I want a jam where my kids can jam together, but they're not just like, making a train wreck out of all this beautiful music. So that's, it's a purpose-led jam. So, genre and purpose are really kind of bleeding together, which is super interesting.
That is cool. So when you say there's a jam, is that just an individual group of creators, or is there kind of like an endless collaborative piece where people can come in and out of working with each other?
Yeah, actually, another interesting point. So we currently call these jams, and we thought of them in the first place as like WhatsApp chat groups. So you know how WhatsApp works,
right? So it's like a private group, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. But from observing how our first users have behaved, we realised that jams are actually their rooms. They're rooms that you go into and leave, and you have different permissions about like whether you can go into that room or whether you can look into that room, what you can do in that room. So that's a kind of emerging behavioural pattern is that they're places like you're walking around a town centre and you can go to different bars, you can go to different shops. The bars. All the bars will serve food and drink, but they've got a slightly different flavour to them. All the clothes shops will sell clothes, but they've got slightly different flavours to them. So it's there's a really rich culture already developing on the platform.
Sounds really cool. I love it.
Really cool.
I grew up playing music on the streets of New York, so this idea of jamming and that what you were talking about with translating what you did on a violin to electronic music, of having more of a tactile, collaborative, organic. You can do all that in electronic music too, but I sort of know what you mean. Like, it's like, just get up there and play. That doesn't require a lot of stuff or it's interesting.
Well, another analogy that that I draw quite a lot when explaining to people how what the vibe of being an endlesser is to compare it to a sport. So say football, soccer. When you go to a soccer match, you're watching people you don't know what the outcome is going to be, but you're watching 22 players on the pitch putting like 20,000 hours of training and rehearsal and practice into action live right there. So you don't know what the outcome is going to be, but you know these people are awesome, and you're there witnessing these people being awesome. Conversely, what happens in the music industry, it's all about you create content, you spend a long time creating content, and the whole thing can kind of be faked a lot more. Like, you cannot fake being a footballer. You can't have a manufacture. There will never be a Milli Vanilli of football, because you can't if someone is not a good footballer, you can't put them on the pitch and pretend they play good football. Whereas if someone is not a good musician, you can hire all the producers and all do all this kind of branding stuff and just manufacture an artist. So we're looking much more towards a skill-based. It's a skill-based platform. It's skill, relationships, live, collaboration.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, it sounds like so much fun. I just want to download it and start playing with it myself right now. We'll come back to Midem, but let's broaden out for a minute. At Music Tectonics, we talk about the shifts taking place beneath the surface. We talk about seismic shifts, partly because that's been the recent history of the music industry. But also, it's just interesting to sort of think about how are things shifting, and also just in society as a whole, we're seeing it, not just in music, obviously. Everything's changing. Economic relationships, personal relationships, all because of how technology and the way technology impacts the economy and way of life. I'm curious, now that we've got you here on the podcast, what are some of the rumblings that you think the music industry needs to be thinking about from your seat?
Ooh, yeah, I'm going to be bold here.
All right,
All right, it's going to be bold.
We want bold.
Yeah. So, I mean, everybody is super happy about what streaming has done. Well, especially, the bigger artists, I'd say, bigger labels are happy about what streaming has done for revenues. I think there's a massive risk that I don't see talked about that much, is that as the friction from music consumption is removed, you sort of get to a certain point of removing friction where you also remove value. So, now I can and I do basically go, Alexa, play my favorite music. Alexa goes onto Spotify, plays playlists, and my interaction is, it's a I don't lift a finger, I just say a few words, and a whole bunch of music that is sort of roughly in line with my tastes will play infinitely. It completely removes my engagement from the equation. It completely removes the friction, which is good. But I think there's a big long-term risk there that the value of music will go down. Streaming services have commodified music. We have the entire catalog in our pockets at the touch of a screen right now, or even a voice command.
Utterance.
Yeah, an utterance. Which is, it's great for consumers, but I think in some ways, the only way that music consumption can go is towards a utility. It'll go from a commodity towards a utility where people just expect to have music that they like on tap, and they won't care about the artists who do it. They won't be building relationships with people. So I think that's a big long-term risk that I don't see talked about in the music industry. So I think engagement, how to find ways of re-engaging people in, allowing people to form relationships with people who create music.
That's great. You know what? I just came from Mark Mulligan's opening keynote here. Do you know Mark? He does media research as his thing, but he does reports, and he has a newsletter. Really great. Huge fan. He's actually coming to our conference, the Music Tectonics conference in LA. He's going to be one of our keynotes there. His opening keynote here just this morning was amazing, and he talks about this very thing.
Right.
In fact, he referenced an early keynote at Midem. Gerd Leonard, a futurist, was here. I think he thought it was in maybe 2000. I'm not sure. It was quite a while ago, where he was the one who kind of put out this idea that music's eventually going to be like water.
Yeah.
And now it is.
Yeah.
And he used the term utility as well. And it's the same thing that he was sort of referencing, that people don't have that connection to the artists.
Yeah.
And he actually said it feels like people's relationships are shifting from labels to streaming services.
Yeah.
And so that also creates an interesting dilemma for the record labels that have been powering a lot of the economics of making music that reaches commercial ears,
Yeah.
And so that's interesting. And what I like about this conversation about Endless, the app that you've created, is that it kind of puts the artist back in a relational setting.
Exactly.
Which is interesting. There's not so much of a screen or a wall between them and others. Although, it's still a question of whether the relationship is with other artists versus fans too. But the other thing that's happening that I always think about in this kind of setting, when you blow it up, when you're not like worried about who's getting paid or how are people going to get paid or what the old standing organizational or institutional structures are and should be, and you just say, well, wait a second. Is it about who gets paid or is it about who creates music? And should the listeners be the players? And that's where I think things like Endless come into a really interesting space where creating music and interacting, collaborating, and having access. We always talk about having the access, the tools of production are now in the hands of the masses. Yeah. And I think your Endless it sounds like you're set up for musicians that are pretty far along technically as well.
Yeah.
But that there's also this component where, but you might be collaborating with somebody who's learned everything from YouTube and, watch videos on YouTube, worked in their bedroom and are starting to get a little bit of traction. All of a sudden they get to collaborate with one of their favorite artists or something.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that, the word relational is the really important thing. I think I think, this is the big tectonic shift. It's like the whole world is shifting towards relational. And when we look at the role of media in that, it's short form collaborative media that is the kind of, it's a sort of pivot point that transition is happening over. And I think, if music doesn't keep up with that, it's going to have to keep up with that because otherwise music will become a utility. Music will be like water.
I think it'll be interesting to see if there's a entirely new market created of user-generated music that is listenable in the same way that traditionally recorded music was listenable, has always been listenable. If you know, not that all of it is. There's a lot of stuff that's not listenable. Yeah. But my point being that, I don't think the idea of record labels and companies and entities that help with not only the production but also the marketing and distribution and curation, I don't think that'll go away. But I think there's this additional huge market that's emerging. That's not just like TikTok. Obviously, there's going to be some things that rise to the top that'll come out of TikTok that will become like a recording you could hear on the radio or that you could play on your stereo at a party or whatever. Stereo, if you have one. Yeah. But point being that there's this other body of music that's emerging that I think will actually expand the pie for all.
Yeah, absolutely. And it, you mentioned the listening word, listenable music. And I think it's worth kind of unpacking what that really means because, you listen to a piece of music, but what next? Is it another piece of music to listen to, or is it music that's listenable and actionable? Does it lead you to then do something, to take some action, to
that's
interact
where the
with
engagement comes in.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is very much, again, this is a trend in media. It's you don't there are platforms for just consuming all the media you want. We've got Netflix, we've got Spotify. Consume all the stuff you want. But the stuff that's really killing it right now is basically actionable, where you consume something and then you're called to engage with it in some way, even if it's really simple, like clicking a like button or leaving a comment or sharing it, or ultimately then going in and remixing the media and spreading and mutating those ideas, round a social network. And I don't mean just like Facebook. I mean like our social, the social network of humans.
Oh yeah. And it's so fun to think about where this is going, and especially when you go to the creativity side, where you're like, wow, there's so many doors being unlocked that are creating the possibility of people making music. I've got a 10-year-old son, and he's played with something called Loop Labs, and just the idea that I didn't have to show him anything. He could just start dragging things around and making music. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to watching where he goes with things as well. I mean, he takes guitar lessons too, but he hates practicing. So
yeah. Well, that's another big problem. Instruments are hard, software is hard, the format is long. It takes years to get good enough to make a long form format song. And once you can do it, then it takes days to make it. It's just like, how the hell people end up being musicians these days? I sometimes wonder. In a way, that's testament to like how big the appetite is to actually make music. That probably most year there's like 1 million or so people who really kind of get through all these huge learning curves to master platforms like Ableton or to learn the guitar and stuff like that to become excellent. And the obstacles are just massive. So many obstacles.
This is fun. Diving with you beneath the surface, Tim. I love that we've gone there. But let's go back to some practical stuff before we have to wrap up. What are other conferences or competitions that you've been to, and what did you get out of them? Part of the idea with Music Tectonics, in addition to this deep level seismic shift stuff, is also to help other people who are thinking about music tech and building startups, and also other innovators and collaborators in the industry. But are there any other places that you've kind of gone to and said this made a huge difference?
Yeah, so last year I went to Future Music Forum in Barcelona. Also went to Sonar Plus D. I mean, Sonar Plus D is definitely a very good place.
Where's that one?
In Barcelona.
Oh, okay.
So Sonar Festival itself is kind of a big music festival, electronic music festival, but then they added, like a decade or so ago, they added Sonar Plus D, which is like a sort of an industry conference.
How big is the conference piece?
What's your metric?
Oh, I don't know. How many people go? How many people did you see?
I don't actually know. I mean, I like at least 10. No, it's loads. I mean, it's thousands of people.
Cool.
Going to Sonar Plus D. Then where am I going? Oh yeah, so going to the California.
Oh yeah,
California. I'm off there at the end of June.
Have you already been to that one, or this would be a first?
No, this is my first one.
Oh, okay,
it's
cool.
my first one. Yeah,
Gotcha.
And then I'll be going back to Sonar again. I know there's something in. I was talking to the like the Mondo NYC people.
Right.
Yeah, potentially go to that, but obviously that involves me like going to the US.
Right.
And when you're kind of like running a team and running a fledgling, exciting new business, you need to kind of make key decisions.
Definitely. So I don't know if you've had a chance to look around or meet any of the other startups here. I know Midem is really just kicking off, but are there other startups that you're excited to meet at Midemlab this year, or any that you saw that you're like, ooh, I want to check that out?
Oh, you caught me off guard there. I need to. I've been so busy.
Okay.
I haven't done, and we're literally just here. But I am really looking forward to seeing all the startups, seeing all the pitches, and meeting people. It's always great to meet a fellow founder.
Is this your first time to meet them?
Yes,
Oh,
it is.
awesome. Yeah.
It's not my first time in the Palais though. Actually,
Oh, really?
I was here for Cannes Lions 6 years ago. I was actually doing a project with Richard Dawkins.
Uh-huh.
The selfish gene guy. Was working with some friends of mine doing something that for Saatchi and Saatchi. They do this big showpiece here, and so basically I was here to kind of remix Richard Dawkins doing a talk about memes and make a sort of meme style mashup of Richard Dawkins. It was crazy.
That's cool.
It was crazy. So that was the last time I was here at Cannes.
I've actually wanted to come to some of the other things that happen in Cannes, just because, the film TV, the advertising stuff, just interesting. Sometimes you have to step into another vertical to kind of like get exposed to some other forward thinking thing that's about to happen, or, get some of that exposure. So it's cool you got a chance to go there.
Yeah. No, I think the only way to progress in your own vertical is to go and look at other verticals. I'm pretty convinced of that.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Well, Tim Exile with Endless, so great to have you on the podcast. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's been great to dig in with you, and I hope we get to have many more conversations after
Likewise.
this. We've never met before. We literally just met here at Midem, which is great, and good luck to you at the Midemlab competition. I hope you
Thank you.
do a great job and get some great relationships. Endless.fm, that's where people can find out about the app, right?
Yes, endless with 3 S's.fm.
Oh, right, Endless
with
3 S's.
With 3 S's.
.fm. And any other shout-outs, handles, contact info you want to push people towards?
Endless with 3 S. Endless with 3 S's FM. Those are our social handles. So Twitter, Instagram. Particularly follow us on Instagram, because we do each day we put up a riff from our community, and there's some really exciting stuff going on there. So follow us there. That's where you'll get your first taste of what the Endless feed might be in the future when it's embedded in our app.
And can our listeners get the app yet, or?
So yes.
I know there's a sign up on your website.
There's a sign up. So if you really want to get the app, you will find ways to get it.
Okay.
This is it's like some sort of like Easter egg hunt or something. But
hey, that's good.
But yeah, so we're doing it at the moment because we're not ready. We're not ready to do like large scale growth at the moment. So we're kind of like hiding these little Easter egg places where you can join a jam and stuff like that. So if you're here at Midem, there's a Midem jam.
Nice.
There'll be a QR code going up at the end of my pitch, which will allow you to join that. If you grab my business card, I've got my own jam there. So there are places.
Cool.
To get
That's awesome. Great. Okay. Again, thanks so much, Tim. Good luck here at Midemlab, and we'll see you soon.
See you soon. Thanks very much.
You're listening to Music Tectonics.